Welcome to your Puncty Bite for the last week of September. It's hard to believe that time is going by so quickly, and in fact, we're just around the corner is the first practical exam. So perhaps even this week you may want to get together with your co-TA and the TAs that TA at the same time, that is either morning or afternoon with you, so that you can start to think about how you're going to want to schedule your practical question picking times. So we'll be talking next week about getting the practical exam ready to go, and so it's not too soon to think about that. I really wanted to begin today by thanking all of you for doing such a marvelous job this semester. I have been utterly impressed with the cooperativity between the co-TAs. I have seen some of the best lectures that I have ever seen. In fact, the preparation for the lectures has just been astounding. So I've just been totally stoked with that. And just bear in mind, my cat is in here today, and so she may be part of the Puncty Bite. So just thank you so much for all of the hard work that you've been doing to make the general microlabs just be phenomenal, as they always are, but maybe even more so this semester than ever. So on that note, I wanted to give you some feedback on the lectures, which have been just overarchingly great, and I can tell you that I can tell when you've prepared really well for those lectures, and at times I have been just stunned by I've learned things in your lectures. That is, you've come up with some additional outside research that has added to the quality of the lectures, and that has just been stunning. I've definitely been impressed with your ability to speak loudly enough for the whole class to hear. That can sometimes be a challenge when you're learning how to give a lecture. And I did have a couple of suggestions in terms of maybe improving lectures. Not all of you, but some of you can work on moving away from the overhead at times, even if it means that you come back to the overhead to say some of the large points and maybe to use the overheads as a helpful thing for you to see, but also be willing to move away from, this is Gabby, willing to move away from the overhead at times. Maybe it's just long enough to tell a quick story or relate an anecdote, or even a method that you have used in the past to help you learn those particular concepts. Anything like that, if you can kind of step away, and I know that your comfort zone is sometimes right at that overhead and you'd like to be able to see it and read it, but do try to move away occasionally. Okay, that being said, one other thing that I did want to mention on lectures is that I understand, sometimes you get busy and you had plan to prepare that day for the lecture, and for whatever reason you're not able to do that, please just let me know and I will give the lecture. It doesn't make me think less of you to have you ask me, say, hey, I thought I was going to be able to prepare, but the day was busier than I thought, and so I wasn't able to. Have me go ahead and deliver the lecture, because it's better to do that than to not be prepared. That being said, let's pull up the schedule for this week, and I just want to bring your attention to a couple of things. One is that we do both labs 10 and 11 on Thursday. So not only are we going through lab 9 on Tuesday, but then we'll do both 10 and 11 on Thursday. And that's quite simply because lab 11 is only one simple short step of spotting bacteriophage from sewage onto a plate. That doesn't take much time at all and nicely fits into the gaps in lab 10. Now for this Friday, Leslie and Chelsea, you'll be manning the open lab. So that's Leslie Grell. Make sure to let me know if you need help with that, because I know Leslie took over for Kelsey last time. And so if we need to find someone to take over for you this time, perhaps we can get that done. So it is a busy week, and we do have timesheets due at the end of the week. So please do get your timesheets to Sandy Decora sometime towards the end of the week. If you need my signature, which you do on those, please come and find me during lab, and I'll make sure that you get a signature onto your timesheets. Okay, great. Let's talk individually then about both of the labs that we'll be doing this week, beginning with Lab 9. If you're feeling particularly industrious and you want to shoot an email to your class reminding them to bring along with them an antiseptic or a disinfectant, that would be just great. I'll make sure to draw the table onto the board before we get started with Lab 9, and I also will be the one to summarize all of the Kirby-Bauer results and talk about and review antibiotic target sites. So I'll do that prior to the lecture, and it's a nice segue into the lecture where we'll be talking about antiseptics and disinfectants. If you have never worked with an autoclave and you'd like to swing by the lab tomorrow, John would be more than happy, I'm sure, to show you how an autoclave works, and just even to give you a quick lowdown on the process that does go into that. We will be splitting the class into 2 or 3 different groups for the hand washing experiment. So help me remember to have one group that works with hand washing, another group that maybe does the different kinds of hand sanitizer. So we can sort of have a split on that so that we can see the results for different treatments, if you will. Okay, I think that's most everything for Lab 9. It's actually, Lab 9 is quite a nice break, and it does, in fact, give us a chance to sort of maybe think about how you might want to schedule, again, your lab practical exam. So maybe thinking about when you want to get together with your co-TAs to think about picking lab practical questions. Now, Lab 10 and 11, that day is going to be very busy. So when the students come in, we need to very quickly get them focused on doing steps 1 through 6 on Lab 10. So that's really going to be their first goal for the day. As soon as they do finish, and that is to say as soon as the last group in your class finishes steps 1 through 6 of Lab 10, that's when we'll start the lecture. Now, I know that I'm giving most of those lectures, though I think Kelsey was signed up for doing the 8 a.m. lab section, and so we'll be lecturing for the first 20-minute incubation, and we can have the students remind us when we do reach the end of that 20-minute incubation, and at that point we can go heat shock the cells. So we'll pause the lecture, and then as we go on to the 30-degree incubation, we can go ahead and return back to the lecture. Now, I do realize for Kelsey, and maybe if somebody else wants to do this lecture, I don't have a ton of information, of background information, since I normally do this lecture. However, there is a little bit here reminding you of a few important things regarding the lab. So do make sure to read through that, because it is a somewhat more involved lecture. Now, in terms of the sewage spotting for the bacteriophage lecture, that is very straightforward. But it's also good to remember to remind your students that they need to do that, and most likely that's a good thing to do right after you finish the lecture. So we'll just have them get working on spotting the sewage onto the plates right before the end of their 30-minute incubation. So well organized, if it's well organized, Lab 10 and 11 go very, very well, very smoothly, and sometimes the students even finish up, 20 minutes prior to the end of lab. So it's not a bad deal as long as we're organized. So I think that's just about everything for this week in terms of the preparation and approach for the week. It should be fantastic, and I can't wait to see all of you again on Tuesday.